The farmers, the fashion designers, and the protesters.
Fur is back in fashion. For younger people who don't care about disapproval, skin is in.
I love fur because it's soft, it moves, it's the ultimate luxury.
But the government's just banned fur production in the UK, and it's other countries who are cashing in.
The majority of mink and fox sold in Britain nowadays will clearly be Scandinavian. For Britain, it's a missed opportunity.
Horrified by the new trend, animal rights campaigners are fighting back with all they've got. They shock, they shout, they show all.
You'll see us up on the catwalks to see demonstrations. Anything that we can do to catch people's attention.
Tonight, the Money programme looks at the continuing controversy over fur, why it appeals, why it appalls. And as the fur flies, we ask, can the revival really last? A couple enjoy a weekend walk together along the coast. It's a rare treat for them these days. They accuse the government of forcing them apart.
We've been here in the West Country, you know, all my life I have. It's totally disrupted my family life, and you just feel that it's wrong.
They owned a small farm in the hills above the North Devon coast. It used to be a thriving business, employing up to 40 people. The government closed it down.
You feel like you've been made a second-class citizen. But, you know, the reality is I'm the same as anybody else, you know. I'm just a farmer trying to do his job, basically.
And the reason for their problems? Mike and Anne are mink farmers. They're upset because the government's banned their industry.
Animals are live creatures. We breed and kill them for food, that's one thing, because of course we have to eat to survive. Animals should not be killed for the sake of it. Neither should they be killed just for the business of stripping their skins off their backs.
I mean, from the animal's point of view, it doesn't actually make a lot of difference whether you raise it for its coat or its meat or any other products that it produces. It ended up dead whether you ate it or wore it or what.
Mike's getting ready to part from his country, his wife and his family. He'll be working abroad a lot more from now on. It's the only way he can carry on the business he spent 40 years building up.
Is that enough socks there?
I feel that I've been banished, and I have a joke that I'm seeking political asylum.
But just as Mike and other British fur farmers had to pack up, having had their businesses skinned alive, then all this stuff came back into vogue in glossy magazines, on the catwalks, on the backs of celebrities and on the streets. The revival's been led by American pop stars like P. Diddy, J-Lo and Lil' Kim, who've all luxuriated in their furs. The supermodel Giselle was recruited as the face of the international fur empire Black Glamour for a global sales push. And Britain has had its own pelt pioneers.
I think the celebrities that are kind of really flying the flag for wearing fur again have got people like Kate Moss, who's incredibly influential in terms of fashion, you know, mainly because she looks so great all the time. She's a supermodel, she's really beautiful, she wears fur, she looks great, and people kind of associate fur with that kind of glamour.
Hi, Lucy. Could you bring the models up from reception, please?
Claudia Croft is one of Britain's top fashion pundits. She agrees that fur's back and that for many people, moral objections are old hat.
There is definitely a lot of people who know what the animal has to go through, but they don't care. They want to look good, they want to look glamorous. 5 years ago, there was only 200 designers using fur on their catwalks, and now it's something like more like 400. I mean, in terms of making a fashion statement, designers really, really want to use fur these days, more so than they ever did before.
Having overcome their own moral objections, designers made fur more acceptable and affordable for consumers by using smaller pieces to adorn a more discreet range of clothes.
It might make them think, well, you know, I can't have the whole thing, but I can have a little bit of trim, you know, some rabbit trim on my collar, or I can have, you know, a furry hat, or I can have, you know, a bag that's got like a foxtail on it.
Judith Watt, a fashion historian, is out on the streets asking people why they're now prepared to wear the new styles in fur.
For women, it's sexy, it's a comfortable fabric, and you know, like for weathers like this, you know, it just keeps you really warm.
Can I just ask you, is that real?
It is, yeah.
Do you know what kind of animal it is?
Coyote.
It's a coyote?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it from?
Versace.
Goodness me, it's mink.
I've just taken it off. I've literally just taken it off.
Hilarious. Why aren't you wearing it?
This one's much longer.
And do you have any problems with animal cruelty or any views on animal rights?
If it's a breed that is bred for its purpose, then I think that's fine.
Is your hat real fur?
Yeah.
Is it? What kind of fur is it?
Beaver.
Is it? Do you always wear it?
No,
Oh, why are you wearing it now?
because it's bloody cold.
Sales are soaring, according to fur shops like Philip Hockley in London. The trade claims a 35% annual increase nationwide. Frank Zilberquite owns the Philip Hockley shop.
Everybody's wearing it who's like Jennifer Lopez's of this world.
Here, £125 buys you a trim jacket, £40,000 a full sable number.
But you may want something that's a little bit more easy to wear on a day-to-day basis. Let's try this on. This is great. I think you'll find it's very exciting, very wearable, inexpensive. We sell this for £125. Younger women are being attracted to fur. Younger women want to buy fur for themselves. The fur coat today is totally different to the old fuddy-duddy image of the fur coat which your mother or your grandmother wore. It's modern, it's with it, it's absolutely today's look.
And it's not just at the top end of the market where he's reporting a boom in sales. His wholesale company, Krios, supplies mainstream outlets, selling clothes and accessories at much more affordable prices.
And then you've got all the various colourways.
This is a new concept which is made out of the cheaper types of fur like rabbit. It's designed in France, manufactured in Greece and marketed right across Europe.
So, for example, something like this, you've got a little gilet for £66.
The cheaper line is all part of the campaign to make fur once again acceptable to the wider public.
This bag is £56.
Right.
All across the UK, people are coming in from small stores saying our product's gone well, or they've heard about us and they want to do business with us. So, it looks good.
It was all very different in the 80s. Anti-fur groups such as Lynx rallied the fashion world to their cause. Catwalk campaigns showcased alternatives, and trendsetters danced to the anti-fur tune. Someone who's devoted his entire life to campaigning against fur is Mark Glover. His group teamed up with David Bailey to produce an advert which helped bring the trade to its knees.
The original brief for the commercial was to shame people off the streets. We wanted somebody wearing a fur coat to feel everybody looking at them to the point where they just wanted a hole to open up in the ground to swallow them up.
Supermodels declared they'd rather go naked than wear fur. Extremists torched a department store for selling fur. According to official figures, fur sales declined by 99% in the 80s and 90s. The animal lobby then turned their attention to winning over the government. They donated £1 million to New Labour. They wanted a complete ban on pelt production and sales of fur. As a first step, they pressed MPs to shut down the UK's 13 remaining fur farms, all producing mink. Mark secretly filmed these scenes at 2 mink farms in the UK. The footage was shown to MPs.
The videos showed for the very first time the horror of the conditions that these animals had to endure inside fur farms. And it opened their eyes. It opened the eyes of everyone that saw them. But I think it struck a chord with MPs and ministers and officials within the Ministry of Agriculture.
The protesters argued that mink are wild animals which can never be humanely farmed.
They're extremely active, very inquisitive animals. They're not like any other forms of farm animals. And to keep them under these conditions leads to those distressing effects.
In fact, government scientists advise that mink could be farmed humanely if standards were improved. But the government banned the trade anyway, on grounds of public morality. Resplendent in real fur, the Queen announced the bill to ban the production of fur in Britain. Banished by royal decree, Mike's moved his business to a country where he's far more welcome. He's now based in Denmark, where he'd already bought a farm in anticipation of the ban. Today he's weighing male mink to see if they're fit to mate. If they're too fat, they're ruled out.
Fat, isn't he?
Yeah. Too fat.
He insists his mink are no longer wild animals and can be humanely farmed.
Mink's been farmed now for 80 years, and they're very domesticated now. I mean, in the 40 years I've farmed them, I've seen big changes in the temperament of the mink. I mean, we enjoy looking after the mink. The mink's quite a nice, intelligent little animal, and, you know, contrary to belief in that, is quite good-natured.
He feels he's been tarred with the same brush as the mink farms caught on camera, which scandalised MPs.
You don't ban sheep farming because you have one bad farmer. Why should I be penalised for the odd farm that's had a problem? We obviously earn money from the skins of the animal. If we do a bad job, the first thing to suffer is its coat. If you give it a really bad diet, it has a terrible coat.
The mink are born in the spring, and Mike says they're fed well, treated well, and killed humanely with gas at the end of the year.
All farm animals are created by the farmer. You know, he puts those stock together and he breeds them, right? He gives them life, right? But at some point, when you farm an animal, that animal has to be killed.
He's now expanding his business to satisfy growing demand. His company turns over £2 million a year, but despite his success in Denmark, he'd rather be at home.
We were breeding 6,000 females in the UK, and we've expanded up to 20,000 now. All the government's achieved is taken that money and jobs out of the West Country and sent it here to Denmark.
The Danes slaughter more than 12 million mink a year, nearly half the global total. Fur is Denmark's third largest agricultural export after bacon and cheese. They make £345 million a year from fur farms. Nearly all the world's fur is farmed, mostly mink and fox, and the bulk of farmed fur comes from Scandinavia. At the Copenhagen fur auctions, they sell pelts to buyers from all over the world, including the London furrier Frank Zilberquite. As well as running a retail and wholesale empire, he's an international broker, so he's buying for other companies as well as his own. He's in town to buy £3 million worth of fur, something he can no longer buy from British farms.
We'd love to buy from the UK market, but the opportunity's now been and gone, and some very famous brand names have disappeared.
Although British fur farms have been banned, British fur brokers continue to do a roaring trade. In fact, they buy and sell half the world's fur. It's a business worth £500 million a year.
In the absence of a UK industry, we buy in Denmark, we buy in Finland, we buy in Holland, we buy from Germany, we buy from France. There are plenty of places that are producing mink. In fact, they're increasing their mink production as the world demand grows. And they're meeting that demand and their communities are prospering.
Fur farmers in Scandinavia have cashed in on the British ban. They've teamed up to form the marketing company Saga Furs.
The majority of mink and fox that are sold in Britain nowadays will clearly be Scandinavian, and at the same time the British market, consumer-wise, is growing. So of course you can say that for Britain it's a missed opportunity.
While the British government was planning the destruction of the UK fur production industry, Scandinavian farmers were working on a plan for a huge expansion in theirs. Key to their success was preaching their message to the young people who shaped the future of fashion. Tutors from Saga Furs visited fashion schools in London and other major cities and invited aspiring designers back to their HQ just outside Copenhagen.
We devised a strategy in the early 90s which was very much about product development and innovation. It was a need for putting out new products. So Saga's role has been very much meeting the industry's demands, speaking to the fashion industry, what can you do in terms of breaking down barriers.
Saga's masterstroke was to encourage designers to use smaller pieces of fur for accessories such as scarves, trims and bags. They learned how to dye it and treat it in novel ways. The idea was to make the product more fashionable, affordable and appealing to a wider range of people. Young designers like Tilda Jensen visited Saga to explore new ways of using fur. Her bright idea was to design for men, a previously untapped market.
I've seen this sample that you have that I really like, because it has this rugged look to it, and it appears to me it could be very useful for something down jacket, like ski wear, sports wear.
So we're more bombers.
Saga was particularly keen to influence British fashion.
There's a craziness in British design that is in worldwide demand, actually. Young designers like fur for perhaps other reasons than older generations like fur. To them, fur is a rebellious thing, in a way. For them, it's about making their own choices, making up their own mind.
Tristan Webber, a British designer, made up his mind about fur after visiting Denmark to see a Saga farm.
I made a decision that I could only really work with fur if I was content as to the way the animals were reared and produced.
He pursued his ambition to design top-of-the-range couture using fur.
I'd always been interested in using luxury materials. Very, very beautiful, very rare materials. I'm picturing myself as a luxury wear designer.
He embraced the Saga school of thought on trims and accessories. He designed a range to sell to Frank Zilberquite.
So what have you got to show me?
A variety of different ideas. I think that people are seeing fur in smaller amounts in shoes and accessories, which I think raises fewer moral questions, or people feel more comfortable about buying those particular pieces.
I think it's going to work really well. So,
Frank was sure there'd be a ready market for Tristan's selection.
Yes, accessories are the thing. We need to have nice, modern designs on accessories.
Tristan was just one of the hundreds of designers to embrace fur, much of it supplied by Saga. They included the likes of Jean-Paul Gaultier, Christian Dior and John Galliano. The trade claimed victory in the battle to sway the fashion world. But animal protesters were determined not to let the fur trade get the upper hand. Last November in New York, they took their revenge on the supermodel Giselle Bundchen for her role promoting fur. This catwalk chaos was unleashed by People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA for short. The group's London-based director, Dawn Carr, helps orchestrate the campaigns of disruption.
The fur industry is a violent industry. The way that they're treating animals is like little more than boxes in a warehouse. We have no hesitation whatsoever of getting up on those runways and sending a loud and clear message back that that is not acceptable. If they don't put the fur up there, we won't put the activists up there.
But fans of fur were not about to give up despite the renewed protests. 2 months after the Giselle fiasco, Tristan Webber got ready to flaunt his creations. Unworried by the prospect of protest, he stays a show to demonstrate how his designs over the last 5 years have inspired today's fashions. There's a velvet fur-trimmed anorak, a foretaste of this year's must-have trimmed parka.
It's based around kind of historical Inuit costume, and that was trimmed around the cuffs and around the collar to add extra warmth.
There's a white fox fur stole streaked with blood red.
To give the impression of some kind of fantastic animal.
Pièce de résistance, a full-length white fox fur coat on a leather base. There were few signs of any moral objections in this crowd.
I love fur because it's soft, it moves, it's the ultimate luxury.
Just down the road, Arcadius, another designer schooled by Saga, was plotting something even more controversial.
Where's the drawing? Can I see the design?
A dress made out of chinchilla skins, dyed a vibrant green.
When I was thinking about this dress, I thought, oh my God, this is an Oscar dress, you know, for someone like Sharon Stone, someone very glamorous. When she goes to the Oscars and the train behind her, this is what Arcadius is all about. It's usually, you know, something very provocative. We want to make a feature out of it and cover this with pearls.
Arcadius thinks animal rights protesters have got their priorities all wrong.
There is so many other more major problems in the world, like other human beings are dying in Africa every single day.
But for now, Arcadius' priority is to get his dress ready in time for the show.
Okay, goodbye.
Celebrities were out in force for London Fashion Week in February.
Girls there, yeah, exactly.
And pro-fur designers like Julian MacDonald were as determined as ever to show off their work. The Antis were equally determined to spoil the picture.
When we took over the runway at Julian MacDonald's show, there were people in the audience who stood up and applauded our action. And the fact that there was someone there who was courageous enough and willing to put themselves on the line to draw attention to this issue. We've got Jana and...
But the protesters weren't just planning disruption. They were also dreaming up another eye-catching stunt. In an echo of previous campaigns, they've persuaded Miss Great Britain, Jana Booth, to pose nude for an ad campaign to get the Queen to abandon bearskin hats for her guards. The slogan, bare skin, not bearskin.
I love animals. They have feelings, they're innocent, they're pure, and it's dreadful what's going on. Really, just for fashion, it's disgusting.
Dawn's hoping a naked Jana will turn heads and change minds on the subject of fur in general.
That's actually really cute. Like that. Look, oh, look at that. That's fantastic. We're thrilled with the final image because the image itself is quite striking. Jana, of course, is so beautiful. And the way that we've put the ad together is you don't want to look away from it. And that's the point. We want to keep people focused on our ad and on our campaign.
Right, that's nice.
The head up a little bit more.
For the animal activists, the ban on fur farming was just a first step. They wanted the government to ban fur sales altogether.
We're still having the cruel products of these industries imported into our country. It makes no sense.
Something that Respect for Animals would campaign for is a ban on the sale of fur products. The effect of that would be to end the wearing of fur in this country.
But the government was also coming under pressure from the other side. Fur farmers went to the High Court to press ministers for compensation. The farmers say they've been offered £1.5 million between them, and they want more.
You can never be compensated for a lifetime's work of building up a business and that. But obviously the law says we have to stop, so we're going to take the compensation.
Mike says he'd rather be earning money and paying his taxes in the UK. But because he's been banned, he's claiming £4 million compensation from the taxpayer instead. With the other farmers' claims, the bill could top £15 million. They're still waiting for a final decision.
The government's going to have to use millions of pounds of taxpayers' money to pay us out, which is ridiculous because all they've done is forced all those jobs abroad and all that revenue.
All you've done is moved a business away from Britain to Denmark and other producers.
We can't control what other countries do in relation to what they regard as acceptable or not acceptable. But you would be making a mistake if you thought there isn't this debate going on in Denmark and indeed Norway and indeed other countries.
But few believe that Scandinavian governments will destroy a trade so crucial to their people's prosperity. And in the meantime, the minister admits he's powerless to prevent the influx of fur.
We don't have control over the sale of fur, which comes into the UK quite legally and under international European law.
And he says he can't and won't ban UK consumers from buying and wearing fur.
Fur farming is legal in other European countries, and as it's sold within a single European market, it's a matter of choice, and I do believe that people should decide themselves what to do.
The battle to win over consumers will only become even more fierce in the future.
Fur traders are claiming victory in the fight for fur this winter. Next winter, they're sure that business is going to be even better. Here they're stocking up on the raw materials. Chinchilla. This is something called fin raccoon. Mink. And this used to be a silver fox. Its opponents are as determined as ever to bring the whole industry crashing down. Pardon the pun, but the fur is going to fly.
Last week, the antis were out in force, pressing London shoppers to boycott fur.
Animals on fur farms live in the most degrading, barbaric conditions possible. If anybody saw how those animals are treated, they would probably be sick or they would come and join us on one of these protests. It's very, very important that you think about what you do with your money and that you don't spend it on the fur trade.
At the same time, Frank Zilberquite was delighted as the orders piled in from retailers stocking up with fur.
I think we turned the corner in the fur business now. Next winter should see fur everywhere, just everywhere.
Not if Dawn and Jana can help it. Just 2 days ago, their eye-catching campaign was launched.
In the future, people will look back on this time and to see the fact that people were still wearing the skins of animals as a luxury item and be horrified.
The protests don't put off Frank Zilberquite.
At the end of the day, it doesn't deter us from doing what we believe we have a right to do, which is to sell what our customers want to buy. Just makes me feel more determined to continue to do my business.
Meanwhile, Arcadius and his team did get their extravagant creation ready in time. They claim triumph. You may not see anything resembling this on a high street near you, but you will be seeing plenty of fur and with it plenty of protests. Next week, the government says the answer to Britain's pensions crisis may be for us all to work beyond retirement age. But who will employ us? And should we be forced to work till we drop?
I really didn't think it would be this bad.
No, you've got to be the strong one, Russell.
Real Men at 9 after The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, next tonight on BBC Two.
Back in Jamaica, as